It is April 9th, 2015. I'm JJ Zacharyson, the editor-in-chief at numberFire.com, here to talk a little fantasy baseball with you, daily fantasy baseball. Just to recap yesterday a little bit, hopefully you went with our algorithm recommendation, which was Carlos Carrasco, just given that the Jordan Zimmerman situation with the weather wasn't phenomenal. Zimmerman did go, and Zimmerman was very, very good. Carrasco, though, was a beast. He ended up striking out, I think, 10 batters against Houston, a lineup that loves to strike out. So hopefully you went with him and you won a little bit of money. And you know, if you yesterday from a GPP perspective, it was a little bit stranger. The Diamondbacks didn't perform, the Red Sox didn't really perform, so it was a little bit difficult to do well in GPPs yesterday. But overall, a good slate for sure. Today, you have to worry about weather once again. I'm personally probably going to avoid the Pirates-Reds game and, unfortunately, potentially the Detroit-Minnesota game. Detroit is a really good matchup. One guy that I do like on the Tigers is Cespedes. I also like JD Martinez. I think they're both very solid options given their matchup. But at the same time, you have to be a little bit worried about the weather there, and that's just something that you have to deal with in daily fantasy baseball. So both that game and the Reds-Pirates game, you might want to stay away from. Just watch the weather within the next hour or so and see if those games are delayed. From a pitcher standpoint, the top option, according to our algorithm and according to a lot of just people out there who watch baseball, would be Steven Strasburg. He's playing the Mets. The Mets actually have, from a Vegas total standpoint, are not projected to score 3 runs today against Strasburg. He loves to strike out batters. I think that the one thing that people need to understand with daily fantasy baseball is that strikeouts matter a lot more than they do in real life. So Strasburg doesn't go, say, 7 or 8 innings. Even if he goes 6, he can still reach that 8 or 9 strikeout range and still be okay, in terms of fantasy value. I think a lot of people, if they don't go Strasburg, they're going to go Matt Harvey, which is fine. That's a decent option, especially if you're on DraftKings and you want to go with both of them. You should be really, really in good shape from a pitcher's perspective. But one guy that we do like a lot as well is Ian Kennedy. So he's facing the Giants today, and a lot of people might be scared off because the Giants have been hitting pretty well to start the year, but they also were playing Arizona in Arizona. So not only were they facing really bad pitching, but they were in a hitter's park. Now they're going over to San Diego. They're going to face Ian Kennedy. Kennedy actually had a really good strikeout per 9 ratio last year. I think it was something like 9.27. So I think that he's a really, really under-the-radar strong option if you're not going to go with Strasburg or Harvey. Now, if you're playing cash games, I would say that you should go with Strasburg and probably Harvey. But if you're looking at a number 2 pitcher, say, on DraftKings, you should go with a guy like Strasburg, and I'm going to pair him up, for instance, with Ian Kennedy because I think that he's going to have a pretty good game today against the Giants. Looking at some of the other batters that I have listed, Carlos Santana and the whole Indians lineup, actually. They're going against Asher Wojciechowski, who's getting his first major league start. And I think the Indians' bats are definitely in play against him in Houston, which is more of a hitter's park than it is a pitcher's park. I do like Carlos Santana especially. I think a lot of people are going to be on the Red Sox again. I don't necessarily love them just because of that weather. It's going to be under 50 degrees again tonight. We saw the effect that could have last night. Hanley Ramirez should have had a grand slam last night if you were watching. He should have had a grand slam, which would have made everyone who used him in DFS very, very happy. But, the weather the wind was blowing in, the weather's cold, the ball just doesn't travel as far. And because of that, you have to play the odds a bit and realize that maybe the Red Sox aren't the best stack to go with. But at the same time, I do really like Pablo Sandoval, who has the right platoon split, and he does bat 363, has a 363 WOBA against right-handed pitchers. So I think that he's a very solid option tonight. If you don't go with a Red Sox stack, I think that you could throw a guy like Sandoval, maybe Ortiz if he does play, into a cash lineup and still get a little bit of exposure to that lineup. Another team that I'm targeting in general is Kansas City. They're going against John Danks. John Danks is really bad. He's not a great pitcher. Last season he had a 4.72 FIP, which was actually an improvement over 2013. So I like the Kansas City lineup a lot. Lorenzo Cain is a guy that I'm targeting. He's fairly cheap across the industry, and his platoon splits, though it's a righty-righty matchup. I do think that he is still a fine option because his righty-lefty splits don't change much whenever depending on the handedness that he's facing. So overall, the two lineups that I like to stack today are the Indians and the Royals. But I think that there are some other options out there. We have a great article that our own Brian Mears just wrote on numberFire with 4 stacks. Oakland's one of them, and he has kind of a contrarian stack in there as well if you're really trying to cash in big in a huge GPP. So those are the stacks. Go with Strasburg. Harvey's a decent option, and we really like Ian Kennedy as an under-the-radar pitcher. Good luck today. Baseball starting in about an hour and a half, so enjoy it, and we'll see you tomorrow.